Hi, everyone. I'm Steve here again with Pastor Victor Brote. You guys can get me at stevemain.com. Again, we love to hear your comments, and if you have questions, then stick them in there and we'll see what we can do. We're always talking about money, and it just, we want to make sure that we have a healthy relationship with money and resources. So, welcome, Victor.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, so let's talk about a passage that most people are familiar with. The love of money is the root of all evil. Let's start in verse 9. So 1 Timothy, we're going to go 1 Timothy 6, 9 and 10. What are you getting out of that, Victor?
Oh, there is so much here.
Two
You
verses.
could spend an hour on it really easy. Let me just read this through real quick. Try to read quickly. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. I wrote some books, and I ended up this connection with a guy who did promotions for different books, and he had a new program every week or month or so, where if you just bought into his program, you would just be a tremendous bookseller. And the fact was, if you listen to stuff and you want to grow rich doing something, you kind of begin to nod your head. Oh, yeah, you could do that. Makes sense. But what came down to this whole thing, and then I got on the list of all these promotions of internet riches. And I would get these sales pitches left and right, and I'd listen to them. They all sounded good, and you start nodding your head. But when you step back for just maybe a day or so and thought about it, it was all kind of mathematical shell game, where it sounded good, but it didn't add up to a true reach like they were promising. And then, because of that, you'd invest maybe, I don't know, $1,900, $3,000 in this thing, and you would be rich. And you would be unrich very quickly if you believe that kind of thing. And really, this goes on that way in society left and right. We think that we're going to get rich doing this with 4 hours a week. And sure enough, that 4 hours a week turns into 80 hours a week, and you're making less than McDonald's wages trying to become rich. And it's just, we're back to that treadmill sort of thing, where you just run faster on the treadmill and you get the same place as when you ran slow. It just doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, and in Proverbs, I think it's in Proverbs, it says we're not supposed to toil for riches. It's not supposed to be hard. But the temptation of wanting riches is a trap, and it brings on many. This is what it says. It brings on many foolish and harmful desires that actually plunge you into ruin. That's the opposite of rich, because again, it's not real. We're a mist. It's not real.
Yeah. I've known so many fathers that they go to work and they work very hard, and their aim is to move up the corporate ladder, and they're working long hours, and they never meet their children, or they have very little to do with it. And then suddenly, after pursuing all these riches, the wife walks out, and then half of those riches are divided, and it just goes crazy and nuts. And people work so hard, and they're destroying themselves. There's a wisdom to God's word where we work honestly, but we work wisely as well. And it's so important because that kind of draw will draw us infinitely into a kind of black hole that sucks us down and sucks the life out of us. And it just isn't good for us.
Yeah. And it's a sure way to plunge you into ruin and destruction. And it's not, the money can't make you happy. And in verse 10, it says, the love of it is the root of all kinds of evil, all kinds.
And it's not money that's the root of evil. It's the love of it.
Right.
It's a getting it out of perspective or balance.
Yeah.
That's
And
what
just
gets us
because
in
it
trouble.
says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, don't think that it's not dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't think that money itself is not dangerous, because it can be, but it's the actual love of money that is the root of all kinds of evil. And it says when you're eager for money, you wander away from the faith. Well, that's the ultimate destruction, and piercing yourself with many griefs. It's not worth it. The reward of having the riches is not the payoff that I guess we, as some people, think it would be.
I just dealt with a person in another situation, and she bought this new home, and the real estate agent failed to tell them. She kind of hid over it. They painted the inside of the house. The inside looked good, but the roof was ruined, and they didn't do anything about that. And the real estate agent kept that quiet. And I see this kind of thing all the time, where people try to sneak things in, and this is going to cost that real estate agent probably more than she's going to make on the next 5 houses, because she used deception instead of just said, well, got this problem and we'll give an allowance for this. It wouldn't have been any skin off her nose, but people are so busy pursuing stuff that it bends our reality to the sense that we justify things that shoot us in the foot and then shoot us in the other foot. It's just crazy what we do as human beings. And it's so important to get out of that trap. I'm going to mention something else. The reason tithing is such a blessing to people is because it sections off God's money. And what you've got to do is you've got to say, this part is for me and this part is for God. And you come under a discipline, a godly discipline of putting things in the right order. And I know so many people that have never done that. They're old. They've gone to church for years and they've never put their life in order. So they never set aside any savings. They've done very little to accomplish things. It's because they haven't gone under the discipline. And that's why it's such a beautiful thing to give. It causes us to be disciplined. And because of that discipline, it blesses us just on a very kind of mathematical, real world sense. It's not just spiritual I'm talking about. It's just a real world sense where when we take this discipline and apply it, it changes everything about us. And we actually start saving better as we do things like this.
Yeah. And you hear people all the time, and even some on this channel say, they want to discuss the technicalities of tithing and the requirements and the law and all this stuff. Is like, just do it, make it a priority in your life and quit nitpicking over why you should or shouldn't, because give more than 10%. Okay. Give to your local church body to help support them, but give. You will never be penalized for it. And it cracks me up how so many people like to argue or discuss, exactly what the legalities of tithing are in the Old Testament and the Hebrew people. And it's like, okay, why don't you stop talking about it and just do it? You're not going to be
We
penalized.
actually, should be more than tithing.
Yeah,
We should be
sure.
giving everything,
Yeah,
everything.
you said that the
Uh,
tithe, that's just the first priority in managing all of God's resources. That's just you prioritize the first 10% to your local church body or whatever, if people who believe in the traditional type of tithe. But that's just the beginning. The other 90%, the other 80% is still God's, and we still have to manage it. It's not ours. So we're still going to manage it and use it to grow his kingdom and to make him smile. It's his.
yeah. When I was in seminary, Pastor Lutzer, you might even know that name, used to say about this debate, do you want to be blessed on the net or the gross? It's your choice. Do you want a minimal blessing, or do you want a maximal blessing? And so instead of arguing about those little details, we seek the maximum blessing for everybody around us. And that's what we should seek for our families and our own lives. Just bless in the greatest way we can.
Absolutely. Well, again, appreciate your input, Victor, and we will see you next time.
Alrighty.